Let's get back to the topic at hand, and that is that the Cleveland Browns are saying they do not want to trade Myles Garrett. Andrew Berry, the GM of the Browns, was at the podium today at the Combine. He was asked about Myles Garrett, and these are some of the answers he had about the defensive end and whether or not he's going to be on the move.
As I mentioned before, understand the frustration. We've had plenty of dialogue, but ultimately my responsibility is to make the decisions that are best for the Browns, and having Myles a part of the organization is a huge piece of that. We've had plenty of dialogue, throughout the season and after the season ended. Certainly both him and his camp, before and after the trade requests, and again, our interest is in keeping Myles in Cleveland. I wouldn't really touch on any conversations that I had with other teams, just respectfully. I don't think that's appropriate just for current and future business, but it's irrelevant to this situation because we're not interested in moving Myles.
So that's Andrew Berry, the GM of the Browns. So the question we're asking you guys is, would you make them an offer they couldn't refuse? They're saying they don't want to trade him. You don't have to want to trade him. I'm going to make you an offer that makes you trade him. I'm offering them 2 1s and a 4. I'm offering them, 2 1s and John Allen and a 5 or a 6 or whatever it is. I'm going to throw 2 1s into a package, and I'm going to make them say yes. Danny, are you willing to do the same?
I am. And here's the reason why. It's 2 reasons. One, the player. Obviously, he's incredible. You're not going to get a player this good anywhere else. I mean, you hope when you draft somebody second overall. You hope when you, find that diamond in the rough in the second round, third round, whatever, they blossom into this. But this is security. This is bona fide. This is one of the best players in the sport. This is a guy that's got a lot left. This is your dominant blue chip piece that I think would fit right in very well to what you're doing, what you're trying to do. The other, again, is how do I make my team the best? I got chips. I got these little, whatever you want to call them, marbles, you call them Skittles, to fill up the jar. I'm going to use the resources in the best possible way. I don't know that I get this level of impact if I use my first-round pick, 29 overall, on somebody and do marginal free agent Marty and another 1-year veteran deal on somebody else to get to this point. I think this is the best way to make my football team the best, looking at what else is out there.
Here's my ranking of Skittle flavors, since you said Skittles.
Go.
Number 1, red. Number 2, yellow. Third is green. Fourth is going to be orange. Fifth is purple.
Yellow at 2 is something. That's pretty high for yellow. I don't think most people are going to have yellow in their AP top.
Yellow's
5.
damn good. Yellow hadn't lost a game all year.
What are there, 6 flavors?
5 flavors.
Yeah, yellow was 5, I think, for most.
You're forgetting that purple and orange are in the bag.
I've not forgotten. Thank you very much. Purple's the 2 seed. That's a lot of red and purple.
I will gladly give you every purple. I would pick every purple out.
Are you a yellow Starburst guy too?
Oh, I love them.
Oh, of course,
absolutely. I mean, I'll go red and pink, then yellow, then orange. As far as Starbursts go, okay. But yeah, I love a yellow Starburst.
Red's the one seed we agree there. I think purple 2, green 3, orange 4. All the distance a light could travel, like light years, light millennium, light everything, warp speed, black hole, wormhole to the other side of a different galaxy that you'll never comprehend. Then more of that, then yellow.
The sleeping. All it is good. Let's go to Ryan and Culpeper. Ryan, are you making a sweetheart offer that the Browns can't refuse?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm not a Skittles fan. I'm a M&M's with the peanuts inside fan. Second of all, what's more important than money? Not much. But in this case, I think we do a little combo. We do a Myles Garrett and we get Deshaun Watson. So we take the bad contract. We don't give up any picks at any point. Maybe they give us a couple kicker kicks. I don't know. Just trying to get creative. And
wait. So you're saying
get them out of their terrible deal.
We'll take Deshaun Watson's remaining contract and then just release him outright. Take all the dead money
for 2 years.
The Commanders have all of the cap space, and then you don't have to give up any picks, which is super creative. It would never happen because teams are obsessed with their cap space and being in a good cap situation where you've got, sweet deals and no dead money and you don't have to worry about bad contracts. It's like the entire goal as a general manager. It's like balancing your budget or having a checkbook where you don't bounce anything. But if you want to not trade picks and you want to get Myles Garrett, It's not going to happen. It's not realistic, but it's actually a pretty creative idea.
Yeah, maybe next year you could do that, because this year, if you went through with that plan, it's $172.7 million of a dead cap hit. There's just no way to get, even with the Washington's cap space, you can't get around that. You now have the same problem that Cleveland does.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't, obviously, it couldn't all be in one season. Right. I mean, that is the salary cap. You know, you're basically.
But I'm saying you split it over two, you can't overcome it. I mean, you're splitting $80-some million over 2 years. I don't think you could
cut him this year if you did.
Right.
That. You would have to keep him around and, probably wait a year, which is another reason why it's not happening. Luke's in Richmond. What's up, Luke? How are you?
Controversial here, but I'm going to say no. It seems like everybody's on the yes train, but I don't think that any team in the NFL is a defensive end away from winning anything, and I'm just big on the future and keeping your draft picks.
So I don't think they're a defensive end away, Luke, but you'd acknowledge they are star defensive players away. They lack talent. They got exposed for their inability to just make enough plays against the Eagles.
Very true. Very true. And Danny was telling me there, if I'm being real, he was, you're not getting anything in the draft. It's guaranteed to be Myles Garrett. So that's a great point.
Thanks, Luke. I mean, I understand his point, though, and I would understand. I guess I'd be more sympathetic to it if this was their only move. If they went, thanks, fare thee well, you're still going to go out and be shrewd and be smart and find those value signings, find your Wagners, your Ecklers, your guys up and down the lineup that thrive for you, that outperformed their deals. I mean, they threw a bunch of things at the wall and they got 10.5 sacks out of Dante Fowler. You're going to trust this front office to keep doing that. You got to do that with or without Myles Garrett. So it doesn't mean your business of the offseason is done, because you're right. Getting a new defensive end that's excellent doesn't now go, okay, now you're a champion. Not at all. There's a million needs they have to fill. Even if you just brought everybody back, you still have to upgrade. But you can't bring everyone back. You've got 30 free agents, basically.
Paul's in La Plata on Grant and Danny. What's up, Paul?
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
Hey, man.
I would not give up 2 first-round picks for him in a second or any. I think he's a great player, but I just think overall our team needs to get better. Yes, he could definitely make us a lot better, but I think we can get decent productivity out of just another 1 or 2 year guy, just like we did with Fowler, and then shore up the back end a little more with a great corner or safety.
So here's the problem, though, and it's a good phone call. Thanks, Paul. You might get decent productivity. Myles Garrett is a game changer. Myles Garrett is elite. It's like the difference between saying Taylor Heineke might be able to manage the game as opposed to what you just saw from Jaden Daniels. You can count on one hand the number of guys in the NFL that have the impact of Myles Garrett. The perennial favorites for the Defensive Player of the Year award. They're guys like Micah Parsons and TJ Watt and Aaron Donald when he was playing. He's now since retired. But that's kind of the short list. That's where we're talking about. When is the last time the Commanders have had one of the best players in the NFL on their team? They've gone years and years and years between all pros, which just means you're the best player in the league at your position or one of them, right? They went from Matt Turk in 1996 until Brandon Scherf a couple of years ago, literally in the 2020s, before they had a first-team All-Pro that wasn't on, in Turk's case, he was on special teams, I guess, but there wasn't a special teamer. We're talking about maybe the best defensive player in the NFL. They just don't have that star power, Danny. Right now, they've got some good football players. Terry McLaurin's a good player. Hopefully, Marshawn Lattimore, who wasn't this past season, can be a good player for you. They haven't had a guy like this. They don't become available. It's so rare. In the way that Daniels changed everything, their offense, the whole thing changed when he showed up. That's what Myles Garrett is capable of doing for a defense. So when you tell me like Dante Fowler running that back and hoping even in a year where he had 10.5 sacks, he didn't make a huge impact. That means he made 11 plays. Now, I'm not saying that was his whole season. That's not. He had a pick 6. He did a lot of good things. I actually really liked Fowler. I would keep him around. I would pay him and make sure he's my number 2 edge rusher. But the difference between the guy who can get 10 sacks in a fairly quiet season for the most part and a guy that on every single play is doubled, is chipped. I always reference when he has to run from one side of the line to the other that the 2 tight ends motion with him and there's penalties on the other team because they're trying to keep up with what side of the formation he's on to have their tight ends over there. It's just night and day, man. That they have not had anything like this. We talk about it with quarterback, and people know what it looks like. This is the exact same thing on defense.
And by the way, the sentiment is correct. You can get decent production from a lot of places. Cool. And you need that still, right? I mean, Ryan Zimmerman told us this famously years ago. Not everybody gets to make $200 million, right? You got to have the below the line guys, or the 34th to the 51st guy on your roster step up and play well for you. You still need that regardless, but you need more of these too. And the path to get them is you strike gold in the draft, or break glass in case of emergency when a guy that is this excellent in his prime is available. And this is one of those times.
Let's go to Jeff in DC on Grant and Danny. What's up, Jeff?
How you doing, guys? I do not make this deal, and I'll tell you why. If you look at dynasties, I'm talking about the Patriots, I'm talking about Green Bay Packers even, I'm talking about Kansas City Chiefs. They don't give up multiple first-round picks for that great player who's going to change everything. That's a Dan Snyder move. That's a Dan Snyder move. And I know that Jaden Daniels has a window, and I know, but you know what? I want the Commanders' window to be 15 years. I want it to be a long window. And I'd rather go and do a kind of a Montez Sweat reverse deal where, like there's a guy like that and he's available because some other team has some cap issues, and we could pick him up and we get 2 first-round picks. And then we've got ourselves a dynasty, because I think we need to change and not go after the shiny object and give all our picks away.
Well, it's not a Dan Snyder move to go get one of the best players in the league. He never did that. It would be a Dan Snyder move to go get a really old player whose best days are behind them, who's a superstar name. It's more of a Howie Roseman move. He went and got A.J. Brown as an example, as a piece for a really good Eagles team. It's more of a, Green Bay Packers move when they went out in free agency finally and made a splash and added a couple of big pieces on a really good team to help Jordan Love. Like, no, it's a winning move. Are you getting a great player? I hate that idea of like anytime you go get a big name, it's a Dan Snyder thing. Dan Snyder went and got old guys past their prime that were popular names. And by the way, every free agent move he made wasn't bad. London Fletcher, Marcus Washington, Pierre Garçon, like they did some really good things in free agency. So by that standard, never go get any stars. That's a Dan Snyder move.
Some trades didn't work out. You think of the restricted free agents with the Jets. Some worked, some didn't. I mean, there have been good moves and bad. I mean, I can't do something simply because the horse's ass before didn't manage the team very effectively. But I understand your point, by the way. If the most valuable thing to you in building an organization is your draft picks, then you'd be less inclined to make this deal. I understand that. But again, I think there are exceptions to every rule.